the vlog. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Stick with us a couple of seconds and we will talk about Dancing with a Millennium.
And we're back. We hope that you'll take a moment now to like this video with a thumbs up, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, and then share it with your social media contacts. Let them know we are live and they should join us right now. And then make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or our Facebook page, and then click on the bell to get notified whenever we go live or release a new video. And there's no bell on Facebook, but there is a thing that you can click that you can subscribe and get notified when we go live.
Okay, hold on just a second, because what I have to do is go to Facebook and turn off the audio. Hang on. Otherwise it's going to start looping.
You can't do that here on the desktop?
I can't see it. I don't know how to see it.
I don't know. Did you go to page? So,
go ahead,
we have
guys.
Chat coming in.
So, guys, just give us a second while we get this worked out on Facebook, because this is the first time we've done it live. So, what I'm trying to do is, I'm worried that what's going to happen is that audio loop is going to start up again. If I go to the page.
Yeah, go to page. Page. So, while Toby's figuring this out.
I'm not a Facebook person. Okay, there we are. Oh, it's off. Yay. Okay.
So we should be all right. Let us know if you have any audio problems, any looping or other noisiness going on with our audio.
Wait a minute. So, is this Facebook or YouTube?
That looks like
I thought
Facebook.
that was on Facebook. Well, how come all these guys are on
YouTube? I mean, that's YouTube. Here's Facebook.
All right.
This is test. Why does that say test?
Because I didn't change it, I guess.
Oh, okay. Anyway, as for housekeeping, let's...
Go ahead with housekeeping. While you're doing that, I will figure out what's going on here.
Let's give out a big old thank you to our chat room moderators. Wow. Jimmy Fast, Joel Lewicki, Jason Eunice, Brian Eagle, and Eric Schmidt. Our presentation today will be followed by open Q&A. You can ask questions in the chat or by text or phone call, right?
I actually set that up for you.
Look at that right there. There's our 1-800 number that you can call in if you have things you want to talk about related to the Forrest Fenn chase, thrill of the chase. 1-800-947-1043. You can call anytime and leave a voicemail, which we can then answer during the next live show that we do, or you can text in during the show, or you can call in once we open up the phone lines after the presentation. Now we're ready for our presentation, I guess.
Okay, so how do I know if there's somebody talking on Facebook?
You know what? I don't know. Let me just look it up and see if I can find it on my phone, and then I'll be able to tell you. How about that?
Okay, so I can see it on Facebook here. Not sure why. So your chat window on YouTube is here. Okay? Center one. Somebody talking on...
There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
So can you see Facebook chat on there?
Nobody has said anything
okay.
yet.
All right. Okay. Well, that's good.
Elizabeth Behill is watching, though. Hello, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, do us a favor and send us a chat message on Facebook so that we can see it. So, guys, I want to share something with you, just because I want to share it, but I want to show you something. And just for a second, I'm going to turn it on. This is the setup in front of us right now. Okay, so this is why there's a possibility of like a million gremlins hitting us up on this situation between the mixer. And what's really interesting is this little device. Oh, you can't see it on. Let me see if I can do it on here. So this device right there is what's communicating with our cell phone and into the mixer. But it's a lot of technology, and there's potential for disaster. And now that we're streaming to both Facebook and YouTube, the order of magnitude potential for disaster. But let's get on with the show, and then we can talk later. So my plan is to open it up to chat in both chat rooms. Now, I've got one screen in front of Shelley, and she's looking at YouTube. I've got another screen in front of me, and I'm looking at Facebook, I think.
Except on Facebook, it says, nothing to see here. Move along. Don't look at this.
No.
So,
Okay.
have a problem there.
Okay. So there's something going on Facebook. I just can't read the chat. So anyway, cut us some slack on this one because we've got a little bit of work to do.
So it's just me and her that said hello. So
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Okay. So let's go ahead with our presentation, How to Find Fenn's Treasure in 1,000 Years or next year. Because the point that I'm going to try to make to you today is that the principles that you would apply to finding Fenn's treasure, whether it is 1,000 years from now, 100 years from now, or day after tomorrow, would be exactly the same. And it's all about context. So we're going to talk about that. Let me go back to the slides here. So I'm going to tell you a story first, because I love telling stories. And it's a story about another treasure. So just bear with me, but I have slides to go with the story. In the 1st century BCE, that's before the Common Era, there lived a young woman whose name was Aurelia, named because, even as a baby, she had a full head of long, silken hair, the color of gold. She lived with her family of modest means, her father a fisherman. Aurelia lived in a small village on a crystalline lake, whose name was only known to the villagers. The lake sat exactly on the border between Narbonensis and Transalpine Gaul, and was 5 leagues from the city of Lugdunum. The lake provided for many families with a bounty of fish, scooped up in a small and delicate net that they emptied into their wooden fishing skiffs, taking only what they needed and no more. Each family had an area on the lake where they could fish, the boundaries established by agreement, the boundary lines emanating from the base of the waterfall that terminated the river as it fed the lake. Each morning, Aurelia would wake, perform her chores, then head to the waterfall. There was a small cavern behind the waterfall, known only to her, where she could disrobe, let loose her golden locks, and bathe herself in the crystalline water with soft soaps her father had brought her from his travels to Rome. Aurelia was considered one of the most beautiful women of her time, celebrated in song, sculpture, and poem. One highly regarded Roman poet, Ovid, smitten by Aurelia, followed her for an entire year, writing enough about her to fill his first book of poetry, entitled The Art of Love. He captured every detail of her existence, including the crystalline lake, the waterfall, and cavern. Only one copy of the book remains, the original, buried somewhere in the Vatican Library. About that same time, Legio Nona Hispana, the 9th Roman Legion, left Rome headed for their post at Tarraco, on the coast of Hispanic Citerio. Along with 5,000 men, they took with them 300 ox-drawn carts filled with supplies, weapons, tools, food, and water, everything they needed to survive the arduous journey and provide for them for the first few months on post. There were, though, 3 carts separate from the rest and protected by a century of specially trained warriors. Each cart carried 3 wooden chests filled with Roman aurei, gold coins, each about an ounce, 160,000 of them. Its value in weight alone would be over 250 billion in today's dollars. But before they crossed the border to Hispania, they were raided by small mobile groups of Gauls, fierce fighters that gave no quarter and expected none in return. With the expectation that they would come in contact with an even larger force, the Romans decided to hide their hoard of gold before the battle. Cassius, the commander of the legion, sent scouts to find a safe location in which to hide the hoard. After searching for a day, the centurions found a cavern behind the waterfall on the lake near the village in which Aurelia lived. There they hid the treasure and killed every one of the villagers and threw their bodies into the lake. All except one, the golden-haired Aurelia. When the scouts returned to camp, they gave Cassius a map of the location of the hide. They presented Aurelia to him as bounty. He took her into his tent and placed the map in a small chest on a desk in his quarters. Then he bedded down with Aurelia. Later that night, he ordered his squadron of bodyguards to murder the centurions who had hidden the treasure. The following day, Cassius and his Legio Nona Hispana rode proudly into battle with what, unbeknownst to them, was a force of 85,000 Gauls. The 9th Legion was lost to history in a single day. None survived the massacre. Aurelia, hearing of the defeat, took the treasure map from the chest, hid it in her pack, and returned to Rome with the other camp followers. More than 2 millennia later, the treasure remains where it was left. The lake eventually soured, and the fish all died, and as a result, no one ever lived near it again. It was said that she was taken for a bride by a wealthy Roman patrician, and when he died, she lived a life of luxury far beyond her means until, at the age of 55, she passed in her sleep and left everything she owned to the slaves that have served her so well. So that is a story of a hidden treasure. And it takes place in the 1st century, before the Common Era, that is, the 100 years that preceded year 1. And so if you wanted to go find that treasure, you would have to ask yourself some questions. And the questions to ponder are, if you had the time and the money to search for the treasure, would you start with a map of Europe today, or a map of the Roman Empire in the 1st century before the Common Era? Another question to ponder is, how much has that map changed? Where are the borders between Gaul and Hispania? Where is Lugdunum? Where is the lake? Because you'd have to go back to that period of time, that context, in order to make any headway towards finding that treasure. You would not use maps from today's context. You would have to go back kind of like an archaeologist, at least a historian, and look at that period and those maps. What would you look for? A reprint of Ovid's Art of Love at Borders? Or would you look for the original copy of Ovid's Art of Love, in which he detailed every movement that Aurelia made for an entire year, including the time she spent bathing and washing her hair in the cavern behind the waterfall? Or would you look for the original copy of The Art of Love in the basement of the Vatican Library? To understand where the cavern was, would you search the property records in Italy and France published in this millennium? Or would you search for the boundary records of the crystalline lake maintained in the Roman Civil Library? 2,000 years old, but still there. The big question to ponder, if you were looking for Fenn's treasure in 10 years, next year, 100 years, or 1,000 years, in what context would you define, for example, where warm waters halt? And I'm going to use our warm waters halt as an example. We believe that the warm waters, the definition of warm waters halt, come from the New Mexico State Game and Fish regulations. Those regulations change annually. One has to assume that Fenn, in our case, as we deduce from this, where the location, what warm waters are and where they are located. We have to imagine that sometime between 1972, when he arrived in New Mexico, and 2010, he looked at those regulations, used the definition of warm waters, and this is all hypothesis, all right? This is just our work. The question then becomes, which did he use? The answer has to be, at some point, you'd have to use the one that's the exact context for that period. In this case, it would be 2010. Now, while there are other different variations of the New Mexico fishing rules, what you would have to assume is that you would start with the 2010 regulations until proven otherwise. It would be that context. And you would do that whether you were searching for Fenn's treasure next year, 10 years from now, 100 years from now, or even 1,000 years from now, if you had some way to point to it. Another example is, as you know from watching our shows this last year, our warm waters halt at the border between New Mexico and Colorado. That's been that border since, I think it was 1825 when it was finally settled, maybe later than that. It's not actually in the right place. It's supposed to be on the 37th parallel, but it's short of the 37th parallel, giving Colorado more property than it was entitled to. But the Supreme Court, and we're going to have a show on this, the Supreme Court made a judgment about that and left it in place. It's not exactly at the 37th parallel, nor is the border between Arizona and Utah, and part of the border between Oklahoma and Texas. They're all incorrect, but approved by the Supreme Court. It is expected that Colorado and New Mexico are going to have that border for the foreseeable future, let's say our generation. But perhaps sometime in the future, things change. The political situations change. The global economy changes. There's a third world war, whatever disaster you care to imagine. The volcano under Yellowstone finally blows up and leaves us at the Book of Eli. There might not be any borders at that point, certainly not the border between New Mexico and Colorado. It could have disappeared like all the other locations. But if you were searching for Fenn's treasure, even though the conditions were post-apocalyptic, you would not search for, you would not claim that you couldn't find the Colorado border at that point because those states no longer exist. You would go back to the period in time in which Fenn hid the treasure. Where was the Colorado border? Not in 2099 or 3099, but 2010, because that's when he wrote his poem. So it's important to remember that you're behaving kind of like the combination of a historian and an archaeologist. An archaeologist is different from a historian in that an archaeologist works with history, but more importantly, they have to substantiate their work with what they refer to as artifacts. And generally speaking, artifacts are the tools and implements, the things left behind, the physical things left behind an individual or a culture that helps us understand that individual or culture. And what I've realized is that we spend too much time searching, and as searchers, and not enough time as historians and or archaeologists. And that's how we're changing our focus for the off season here in the coming winter months. We're going to think more like historians and archaeologists and maybe even anthropologists. And we're going to study the history of Fenn, and we're going to study the history of his artifacts. And he has indeed left us some interesting artifacts. They include the bells and the bronze jars that he talks about in the chapter after next. So the next one is chapter 23, Golden Moor, which Shelley and I are covering on Thursday. And then he goes to chapter 24, which is Dancing with the Millennium, which to me is an indication of why these bronze bells and jars are so tremendously important to him. And if you look at that chapter, it is divided almost equally between a discussion of the bells He starts, and this is the Dancing with the Millennium chapter. It starts on page 135. And he talks about his love for history. And, of course, he includes pictures of the bells there. And he talks about them. Little things can be so important in our lives. For example, do you know how long a piece of iron is needed to make a horseshoe? He has that discussion. And then he goes into a discussion of his bells. Now, he says that he doesn't give us a number of bells that he buried, and he does claim he buried them at least 3 feet below the ground, and he refers to Bureau of Land Management land. I buried those bells about 3 feet deep, so a metal detector can't find them. Some may be on land owned by the American people, but tended by the Bureau of Land Management. He, in addition, wrote words on the bells, and we already know that some of those words had mistakes in them. Imagination is more important than knowledge, and he misspelled knowledge, leaving out the D in knowledge. There are others, but these illustrate my point, if not my logic. Hopefully, no one will happen upon a bell for many years. Around 1,000 would be perfect. Dancing with the millennium. The Rosetta Stone was undiscovered for 2,000 years, and don't you know, the guy who carved it is proud. Then he makes a transition over to the bronze jars, and I think these become important in both a literal and a metaphysical sense. He says right at the top of page 139, I'm also burying bronze jars for the same reason. About 8 in all. I thought the inclusion of the word 8 was, about the inclusion of the word about was interesting because it leaves room for error. To me, the room for error, if somebody says about 8, they're missing the second part of that phrase. And the second part of that phrase most often would be about 8 or not. And I wondered perhaps if we weren't talking about Dancing with the Millennium, a period 1,000 years from now, when there was no books, there was no thrill of the chase, there was no written record. There would only be these bronze jars, which contain the 8 or 9, about 8 bronze jars, which contain at a minimum Fenn's biography. And I wondered to myself if that number, 8 or 9, had other meaning as well. Perhaps the meaning of not only including and protecting for 1,000 years his biography, but perhaps, I thought, each one contains the definition of the 9 clues, of one of the 9 clues in the poem. You put it in a bronze jar, it survives 1,000 years. Someone may find it then as it surfaces as a result of wind and water and other kinds of erosion. And they find the biography. The biography tells them the story of the treasure, and they get 1 clue. Maybe there's 9 clues, 1 each in each of those jars. So, I think it has potential. I'm not sure whether or not from a, again, metaphysical perspective, there's something in Dancing with the Millennium that we might look at to determine whether or not there's something else there, something about the bronze jars that we're not picking up on, the bronze jars that and bells that sit upon his desk, the bronze jar that he filled with artifacts from San Lazaro and gave away as a raffle drawing for Rennell Jacobson. The bronze jars have something important about them. I'm just not sure what they are, and I was hoping by sharing this with you, you might come to some conclusion about exactly what the meaning of those bronze jars are. So he calls the chapter Dancing with the Millennium. He talks about what he put in the bronze jars. He talks about how he built them, especially with a unique way to make sure they were sealed correctly. And he talks about, again, putting his biography in each one of the about 8 jars. Perhaps the about 8 could be 9. So, lots to think about. And my point is that It doesn't make any difference if you're searching for Fenn's treasure in 1,000 years, 100 years, 10 years, or next summer. Your behavior when it comes to the context of your research and your follow-through is exactly the same. You're a searcher, you're an archaeologist, you're a historian. Go find that treasure. Okay, so I have no idea what's going on in Facebook. I can't.
I got it over here.
Okay.
There's very little.
Oh, okay.
Jason says hi.
Jason Eunice?
Yes.
Hi, Jason Eunice. We'll see you. We'll
He's
see you
in
tomorrow.
both rooms.
Oh, okay. So why don't you go ahead with the chat in YouTube since there's nothing happening? I'm assuming we are streaming to Facebook. Is that correct?
Yes.
We are streaming?
Mm-hmm.
But there's no other activities.
We have 4 watching in
Oh,
Facebook.
okay. All right. That's
But
okay.
you called it test, nothing to see here, so I don't
all
think
right.
people are going to show up for that. You're going to have to give it a better name next time.
My own fault. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, guys, is I am going to turn on the call line and the text line. So you're welcome to call us and text us with your questions. And while I'm waiting for that, Shelley can start going through the YouTube room, because right now I can't figure out what's happening in Facebook. Okay?
Okay.
So go ahead.
Do you want me to say hello to everybody, or just want to start with the first question?
Yeah, we've got time to say hellos. It's only 1:26. I can give you, hang on, that if it'll help any up on the screen.
Okay.
Or would you rather use, you have control, the nice thing about what you're doing.
I can do this.
Okay, all right.
So I just know that this is the first question. So I'm going to give you the first question, and while you're thinking about it and opening up the phone lines, I'll be saying hello to people.
Okay, go ahead. Give me
First
the
question is from Eric Schmidt. Did the same 9 clues... Oh, sorry, that was a little quote he did. It was up here. Here he is. Eric Schmidt. Why would Forrest base where he placed his treasure on governmental regulations when he seems so against that? Oh, let's see. Here we go. I go back up to the top and this. Say hello to people. Okay. So who do we have in the room? We have, and I may miss a few people because the top part of this erased itself. Alan K, Sam Leno, Joe's BHTB, Cindy Guess, hello. Jeep Girl Jody from Colorado. Jimmy Fast, no one in particular, hello. Blue Mango from Jersey. Eric Schmidt, Journeyman. Paul Ammons, Britt Chaser is here, hello Jono. Illinois Ghost, hello Rick. Dave Erickson, hey everybody. Fenn Treasure Hunters, good afternoon. Treasure Carver from Seattle. Brent from Austin, Texas. JM4N, and he hasn't been here in a while, so good to see you. And Virgil Kane, Gregory Ferguson from Moab. David Dow, Paul Ammons, who says, Toby, you're going to be flying a mission to Mars soon with that technology.
Sometimes it feels like that, and I hope by the time that I do, I've worked out all the potential gremlins.
Brian Eagles here. Steve Smitherman. Steve Gahagan from Sticky, Nebraska.
Hi, Steve. We're going to drink your wine on Thursday.
IDK. Brian Ulrich from rainy New Jersey. And Joe's BHTB says, oh my God, Toby, how do you keep up with all of that? Because he doesn't sleep.
Yeah.
Steve Smitherman says, looks like a NASA control room.
I'm going to put that picture up for just a sec.
We have JJ 215-123. I don't... Heather Dawn is here. Hello. Of course, Jason Eunice and William Ortiz. Paul Wood. Jan Schultz. Saffron. Sean Martinez. Welder for Hire.
Sean's going to be on our Wednesday show.
And Minotaur Moreno.
Oh, good. He's back in the room.
And we're back to that question.
One of our moderators accidentally
accidentally
blocked
hit
him
the wrong
other day.
button.
Yeah, hit the wrong button, so we had to get Minotaur back. So welcome back, Minotaur.
And Claudine James
Claudine,
and
you know what that reminds
Elizabeth Vihel are in our Facebook chat room.
Yay.
Claudine, thanks for joining us. Toby gave this the wrong name. He shouldn't have called it test, and you are correct. It is the real deal. Okay.
It is the real deal.
Yeah.
So we'll get better at this as we go on. We're just happy that we are simultaneously streaming to Facebook and YouTube. By the way, the 1-800 line is open. You can see it right below Shelley and I, or between Shelley and I in our lower third. Please feel free to text us your questions to that number, and I'll read your text message. If you'd like to call us, you're welcome to do that as well, and we can have a conversation. I got a text.
Claudine is Lori James's sister. Well, that's awesome. Thanks
The
for
first
sharing,
thing, every
Lori.
time I hear the name Claudine, I think of Claudine Longer.
Okay.
Do you remember her?
No.
She married a singer, Andy Williams.
Oh, I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Long time ago. She was a French kind of actress. She tried singing for a while.
Sounds like a French name.
I had the biggest crush on her. Okay, we do have a text message from... so remember, guys, if you're sending me a text message or you're going to call in, make sure you give me your name, your first name at least, so I have something to refer to, and where you're calling from. So the question is, have you guys went out and physically went looking for the treasure? And if so, how many times? Fast Eddie is my name.
Fast Eddie. That's
so,
like Jimmy Fast. You guys should be like cousins
or something. Yeah. So Fast Eddie, we have been... My volume is up just a little bit. Let me take it down. So Fast Eddie, we have been... I have been on 32 recons in 3 different states. Most of them in New Mexico. And all around northern New Mexico. Shelley has been on 11 of those with me. And we've been in New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming. So yeah, we have been out a lot. If you go to our blog at agypsieskiss.com, that's agypsieskiss.com, and you click on the navigation bar button that says photo albums, you will see our photo albums with images of our travels dating back to 2013. So yes, we have been out physically looking for that darned treasure.
We have David Andino who says, where is the best place to start looking for... ... question mark.
Where's the best place to start looking for Domino's Pizza? It's right down the street. No. The best place to start looking for the treasure, in our opinion, is New Mexico. That's where he lived for the 40 years before he wrote the book, 37 years before he wrote the book. He says in the book that the treasure is in the mountains north of Santa Fe. So if I was going to start any place all over again, I would start in New Mexico. And then I, like others, would expand my searches into other states. But New Mexico seems to be the most logical and rational. Let's go back to Eric's question first.
Okay, I just was going to say, Claudine says, I shoot my men with cameras, Toby. And then we have somebody named... I think
somehow
Jaime,
the other that sounds sexy.
Jaime Gallegos. I guess H-I-M-E is Jaime.
Oh, well, no. Jaime is J-A...
I know, but how else would you say it?
Well, that's a good question. If he used the English variation, it would be Jaime, but maybe he's Jaime.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. And
okay.
Yes, Eric's question was right here. Where's Eric's name? There. Why would Forrest base where he placed his treasure on governmental regulations when he seems so against that?
So, interesting question. Just because Forrest is against government regulations, it doesn't mean he doesn't adhere to them. So, for example, he spent 20 years in the Air Force. And for those of you who have spent any time in the military, you know that the military has a volume that thick of regulations that you are required to follow. Otherwise, you can be everything from an Article 15 to court-martialed for it. So although he wasn't a big fan of regulations, I never got a sense. So if you look at his writings, you can see that he likes breaking the rules, jumping over fences, things like that. But he was a gallery owner, which means he had regulations dealing with operating in that gallery for the city, the state, and the federal government, and he adhered to those regulations. He collected Native American artifacts for dozens of years. And when the FBI was arresting folks all over the Southwest, apparently he had done such a good job of following the regulations that he wasn't arrested. So I don't get a sense that there to me is a big difference between what he says, which implies that he's kind of a rebel kind of guy, like me. I'm a rebel, but I've never had a speeding ticket. And I've never used drugs. So there's something new that you found out about me. I couldn't because I had a clearance. But the point that I'm trying to make is that Fenn, for as rebellious as he sounds, like many people who are rebellious, do indeed follow the rules and regulations. He was a fisherman. He had to follow rules and regulations. Otherwise, you would be at a minimum fined, or you could even be arrested depending on how much damage you did to that particular fishery. So it makes a lot of sense to me to think that this man who on the outside presents an image of rebelliousness seems to be on the inside a man who adheres to the civility of living in America, where you're protected and directed by laws from the local through the state and up to the federal. So
we got a cha-ching from
Ka-ching.
Paul Ammons.
Hey, Paul.
Super chat. And Toby kind of forgot to tell you about Super Chat, but Paul Ammons has demonstrated that if you are interested in participating in Super Chat, having your comment highlighted in a big colored box, and you can just click on that little $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat, and that's going to pop your comment right up for us. And he says, would reading Forrest Fenn's biography to the public while he is still living be an embarrassing moment?
For him. Wow, that's a really good question, Paul. I think, in my opinion, Forrest Fenn is the kind of man that doesn't care to be embarrassed. I think he suffered through enough of that embarrassment growing up as a child. So I think you become there's two results from childhood embarrassments, two potential results from childhood embarrassments. One is immunity, that is, you become immune to embarrassment. And I could think of several politicians that are immune to embarrassment.
And telling the truth.
Right. And then the other potential outcome, is that you are affected by it. You don't like being around it, and you'll step away from it. Forrest strikes me as, and again, this is just my opinion. I'm not a psychologist, and I don't pretend to be one on YouTube. But Forrest strikes me as the kind of person that doesn't care to be embarrassed. So I can't imagine that he would intentionally include a biography in any of those bronze jars, that whether it was written while he was still living, or it was read while he was still living, or it was read after he was living, in any way would embarrass him. If anything, I think it would write it so that it enhanced his reputation rather than diminished it. So we have a question from Brian Ulrich from New Jersey. Forrest Fenn refers to it. What do you think it means? In our opinion, the it to us means the journey from clue 1 to clue 9 and the finding of the treasure. Okay. Did Paul have a question with his...
You just answered it.
Oh, I did. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You're ahead of me.
Embarrassing moment.
Got a lot of stuff here. Okay.
Embarrassing moment. I'm helping.
Okay. You're doing a great job, by the way.
I know,
Thank
right?
you. Who knew?
Applause for me.
So don't forget, you can call the 1-800 number, 800-947-1043, and we will respond, and we will put you on the air.
That's right.
Am I starting to sound more like a DJ here?
Yes.
Somebody, Sean Dotson, in his show the other day, referred to me as the Rush Limbaugh of the Chase.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah,
please.
well, I know.
Let's hope you're not that horribly mean.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe says the bronze jars won't be found soon, whereas the treasure appears it could be found sooner.
A good hypothesis. We're of the opinion that the treasure is not going to be found anytime soon, that it's going to have to be worked for. There is no indication, to the best of my knowledge, that anyone is near finding the treasure. But what do we know?
Jason's singing a song. Wandering around
Apparently
in the desert
so
on a horse with no name. La, 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 la. They're all singing in the
Great.
chat room.
That's good. I got 3 hours sleep last night getting this presentation ready, guys, and you're singing. Yeah. Actually, I didn't get sleep last night. I got it this morning.
And whose fault is that?
That's my fault. No one to blame but myself. I'm not blaming anybody. It's my fault for not being better about getting to bed on time.
Sea Monkey Vacation says he did a boots on the ground this weekend. Browns Canyon, Hecla Junction, Browns Creek Falls, Collegiate Peaks. Browns Canyon could be considered finny. Many miles of searching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually were up there. Was it 2 summers ago or last summer?
Last year.
Last year.
Yeah,
and we have a bunch
June.
of we still have a bunch of photographs and a tremendous amount of video on it, and we got back and we're going like, this is just too much work. But maybe you can see the photos from our Browns Canyon recon on gypsieskiss.com. That's gypsieskiss.com, and just press the photo album button. So I can't see anything on Facebook. I hate Facebook. I'm sorry, I don't hate Facebook. I just need to get used to it.
There isn't that many comments. Here they are if you want to look at them.
Okay. Claudine Longer. I shoot my men with cameras, Toby. Ooh. Oh, yeah, Claudine Longer and Spider Savage. That's right. After Tony passed away, they divorced and she married the skier, Spider Savage.
Denise Bagley, hello. She says, Toby, I love your show with Shelley. Thank you for your work. In my opinion, there's not enough imagination and too much logic with what you've said. She doesn't know you made up that whole story about Aurelia, does she?
So the imagination part. So I'd like to think that it's a complete balance between imagination and logic, right brain and left brain. So I will have to admit that the story that of Aurelia and the crystalline lake in the Roman 9th Legion came from my imagination. I had to find something to make my point, so I made that story up for you.
Joel Lewicki says, Preston's 2003 book, The Codex, based on Fenn, and with Fenn's blessing, the Fenn character hid his treasure nowhere near Santa Fe. Thoughts?
Oh, Joel, you're doing that on purpose. Douglas Preston is not Forrest Fenn. Douglas Preston doesn't write for history. He writes for sales. And so he has to make the best possible story he can. Honestly, a treasure hidden in Santa Fe for a novelist, award-winning New York Times best-selling, money-making novelist, hiding it around Santa Fe would be rather boring. If I was writing a novel and not a book of history, then I would do the same thing. I would make it as dramatic as possible, and writing novels demands actually that you do make it dramatic. Part of the hero's journey is actually making a journey. So if he lives in Santa Fe and he hides it in the mountains north, it's not much of a journey. You're driving up to Espanola, for God's sakes. On the other hand, if I remember correctly, it's down in South America someplace. So he makes the journey. So I think their objectives as authors are different. Fenn writes like a historian. Preston writes like a novelist. Come Come on, guys. Call me. Let's talk.
Patricia Marin
I
is
promise
here.
not to. Patricia, buenos días. ¿Cómo estamos?
Her first 2 searches were in New Mexico. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I'm not sure what this means, but I'll read it. BH says, at AGK, if there is an actual place called Home of Brown, that would likely be gone in 1,000 years. Because of its historical value, could still be found as long as there is an archive. Would it qualify as Home of Brown?
So that's an interesting question because I think it's actually 2 questions in one. And one question is, and we talked about that today. So one question is, in 1,000 years, would the clue Home of Brown still have any value? Right? If you somehow found a copy of the poem and you looked at a Home of Brown and you realized that it was necessary to interpret it, to decipher it, if you will. I don't like using that because we know it's not about ciphers and codes, but let's say you had to decipher the Home of Brown and you came up with something. If you're in a context that's 1,000 years from now, and I'm going to use this as an example, right? Let's say the Home of Brown is a beautiful greenish deep water where he caught his first big brown trout in New Mexico. Let's just use that as an example. So you would have to come to several conclusions. One, the first conclusion is that the Home of Brown represents brown trout. There may, for all we know, in 1,000 years, not be the brown trout either as a reality or a concept. So again, you have to go back to the context of the period and find out what Fenn could have concluded or could have encoded in the Home of Brown when he wrote that line, because the likely that either physically or metaphorically. Hey, we got a call. Hold on, caller. Just give me a second, okay? Hi, this is a Gypsy's Kiss. Can I help you? No. It's all right, we lost him. But I do have a next text message. So let me finish my comment. So the problem with looking at the Home of Brown in 1,000 years is that you may not have not only a literal context in 1,000 years. What are brown? Brown trout may not exist. Beavers may not exist. Think about all the things that we think of about Home of Brown right now, and imagine that in 1,000 years none of them exist. So the physical, the conversion, the transition to reality may or may not exist. Yeah, I'm getting, hold on.
Are you going to answer that?
A Gypsy's Kiss, can I help you? Hello? A Gypsy's Kiss, can I help you?
Is somebody there?
Well, somebody's there, but I can't hear them at all.
Uh-oh. We tested the phone just before we started the show, and it worked okay.
Yeah, it worked fine.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi, this is a Gypsy's Kiss. Can I help you?
Yeah, hey, this is Paul Emmons.
Hey, it's Paul Emmons.
Oh, I need to put in my headset.
Oh, okay. Hang on, Paul. Give us a second while Shelley puts in her headset. So tell us in the room if you can hear this
Okay.
conversation. Just give us a second.
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
You got his headset in?
Mm-hmm.
Count to 10 for me, Paul.
Okay. Yeah, I threw in that super chat, and I just wanted to expand on that a little bit as far as his bio. He put them in the jars. He knows those aren't going to be found for a long, long time, more than likely. That he put one in the chest. I feel that there's some stuff in that bio that's very personal. What's your thoughts?
I agree. I think there's a tendency for him to incorporate a lot of his inner components, things that he might not put in a book for publication that was really designed to help you look for the treasure. The biography, to me, was more personal. And if I remember correctly, when asked the question, he said that biography is copyrighted and may not be reproduced. So one has to assume that it is different from how he describes the biography and the thrill of the chase. I agree with you that if I was going to write a biography, if I was going to write what I claim to be a biography, it would be constructed very differently from the book that I wrote that I claim to be a memoir. They're two completely different things. They are defined differently, and their objectives are different. So he has more than once indicated that what he put into the jars and into the olive jar that sits in the treasure chest is his biography. I don't get a sense that his biography is the same as his memoir. Okay?
I absolutely agree, but the biography is the same as the one he puts in the jars.
You mean the biography in the olive jar that's in the treasure chest?
The biography in the treasure chest is the same one he put in the jars.
We agree. We agree on that. We don't think that...
Okay,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we don't...
I'm just saying that being that there's a delay here, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
Being that the case that they're the same, I don't know. There's just something about it that, if it was me, I would have just, he talks about his daughters and stuff not knowing things that happened back in the old days and so on and so forth. I just think that he said a lot about himself in a very personal way, more so than any of the books he wrote. And, maybe it makes him a little nervous this thing might get found.
Again, we agree with you. We believe that what's the biography in the olive jar and the bronze jars are truly the definition of a biography, as opposed to what he wrote in The Thrill of the Chase, his memoir. So, yeah, I think as a result, as you suggested in your question, it might be very personal. The question for me is whether or not it's the kind of personal that could sometime in the near or far future be embarrassing, because you could write a biography that's personal but not embarrassing. And we can think of, tens of biographies that have been written in the last 30 years in the modern era that don't talk about the embarrassing stuff. They make each of the...
I might have used the wrong word. I might have used the wrong word by saying embarrassing, maybe out of element, just revealing a lot more about his life that he didn't before, because, the way I see it, that's his last thing to say. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once that bio's opened, that's it. He's not writing any more books. He's not doing anything else. That bio has to say something.
Yeah. And when you're saying it has to say something, what are you referring to?
I think that Forrest Fenn, he says, I wish I would have done the things that I was, attributed to and all that kind of stuff. I think he has some stuff to get off his chest for his family and other people. And I think he put it in that bio.
Well, we can only wait until you find the treasure and share that biographic sketch with us.
Well, I'm getting close.
Yeah. I'm happy to hear that, and we look forward to hearing from you, perhaps even by the end of this search season, that you found it, because we'll make our last show about that. How's that? I want you to know that
it's not going to be found this search season.
When you
I'm not going to find it this year.
Oh, okay.
I'm done.
So we've got another year's worth of shows to plan. Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's not going to happen this year.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, you guys are doing great. Thanks so much.
We appreciate it. Thank you for the call, and thank you for the smart chat. We really appreciate it.
Super chat.
I'm sorry, super chat.
Bye-bye.
All right. I got a couple of text messages that I have to take care of here. Just give me a second. Let's see. Another one from Brian Ulrich from New Jersey. Why do you think Fenn says your effort will be worth the cold? We don't incorporate that into our thinking, because we stick to what we believe are the clues, Brian. And the clues to us are in the stanza 2, 3 and the first 2 lines of stanza 4. So we try to avoid additional confusion, if you will, by adding those things into it. So we actually haven't had a thought about it. As a matter of fact, if we haven't made a show about it, that means we're not incorporating it into our thinking. So that's why I don't have any what I would call serious thoughts about it. So let's see. If you are brave and in the wood, Forrest Fenn says that somebody could find his. This is from Eddie, Utah. Could find the treasure in 1,000 years. Wood sounds like trees. Good chance trees. Yes. Wouldn't be there in 1,000 years. What are your thoughts on this? If you're talking about the treasure, Eddie from Utah, I don't. The treasure, I believe, will be where he left it. The question is how the environment around it has changed. So, the dimensions of the location, the location will have changed as a result of environmental changes. But I imagine the treasure will, for all intents, unless it's sitting on a miniature volcano or a geothermal location where it just blows it out of the location and into the air and spreads it all over. But I imagine it'll be there. The question is what the world is going to look like in 1,000 years. So Heather Dawn says, hi, Heather Dawn Angel. I had Tracy Brown, and I am in Wyoming from California. I'm trying to figure out, and I assume it's not back from warm or where it came up with Amanda. I don't know what Heather is asking, but why did you hand me this?
I just wanted you to see that he said it was loud and clear, so he's hearing the phone call.
Oh, good. Oh, that's Robert Walker.
Yes. And then there's this one, I guess.
So David Andino on Facebook asks us, is the Paposia River located in the Rocky Mountains? I believe is where the treasure is. Thank you, Toby and Shelley. The Paposia River is in the Wind River Range, which are included in the Rocky Mountains. It's just west of Lander, Wyoming. There are actually 3 Paposia Rivers, the Central, the Little, and the Middle Paposia Rivers. And the one that goes through Sinks Canyon is the Paposia, the original Paposia. But if you want to have a lot of fun, go to Lander, Wyoming, and don't say Paposia, say Popo Aggie, because then everybody will have fun with you. So it is indeed in the Rocky Mountains. Okay, what have you got over there? I've got a text message over there.
I have something in Spanish you need to read, because I can't read it.
Oh, okay. Jason Eunice says, what do you have against Journey or Def Leppard? Is it because the lead singer is Filipino?
Like your sergeant?
Yeah, well, they're going Barinki. I had a Filipino drill sergeant, and my life has never been the same since. I look at Filipinos differently. He and Pony are going to the Journey. No, the Def Leppard Journey. It was halted because of the winds. Oh. So they got new tickets, and he had a spare ticket, and I can't go tonight. So he's harassing me. So he and Pony are going to see that tonight.
That's nice.
No, it is nice.
I hope the weather's good tonight. So here's
Brian,
that thing in Spanish.
Another one from Brian. But what if it is only visible at certain time of the year, like a long cast shadow in a certain area? And Brian, that's one of those things that anything is possible. We can't make a hypothesis based on that. So I can only say that anything is possible in that case. What was
Spanish? Patricia.
Forrest S-L. It's Forrest who is. Él hizo esto con toda confidencia. Forrest S. Ken S. And Forrest is the man who is. This is the reason he made this. So I imagine she's referring to Chase with total confidence. So Patricia is saying that Forrest is who it is. It's the reason that he, referring to himself, it's the reason that he hid this treasure with total confidence.
Okay.
There's no question. Denise Bagley?
Denise says, wow, great imagination. I'm glad I made the comment. We may have never known that you made that story up. today's
No,
story.
you would have made it known. You would have known because at the end of today's show, I would have told you that we made that story up and not to go look for the treasure.
Jason says,
I needed to make
driving through Espanola could be considered a hero's journey to some.
Yeah, we go through it, and especially if it's on a Friday after Friday.
Penitentes.
Yeah, the not only the penitentes, but the Friday Friday afternoon lowrider parade in Espanola. If you want to get stopped in traffic, if you think Espanola has the potential to have a traffic jam, go on a Friday because it's a lowrider
no one in
traffic jam.
particular says, why would Forrest say his gut feeling was not based on any information? We know he gets many emails from searchers, some of which give specifics.
I would have to say that whatever Forrest says about the potential for the treasure being found has to be on his gut feeling. Now, he did back in 2013 indicate that somebody had written to him and that they were within 200 feet of the treasure, but he has never referred to that instance as being concerned about somebody finding the treasure. And the conclusion one has to come to is that somebody went looking for the treasure, got within 200 feet, and then said, that's it, I'm not going to do anything else. So Forrest was confident that the person, as a matter of fact, I wrote a blog post on this. I wrote a story about that person and the letter that were, and it is, imagine, Denise, it's fiction.
Fictionalized.
Right. And I wrote a story of the conversation between Forrest and the searcher that came within 200 feet. It's on my blog someplace. And the conclusion that one has to come to as you listen to all the things that Forrest has said about that instance is that it was a party of a family. It was more than one person because he always uses they. And that the person told them about where they were and then informed Fenn that they weren't going to continue the search. And I think that's why Forrest has been so confident, because we all ask if you had discovered in 2014 or whenever he first said it, that you had been out searching, and actually it was before that because I'm not a 200-footer. It was before August of 2013 that he first said that. And that's when I got into the search. So it happened before I got into the search. If he had said that and you had been out searching that season, wouldn't you have gone back and beat the bushes to within an inch of their life, looking for that treasure at every location in which you thought you were 200 feet away from the treasure? That's never happened. He's never recalibrated that phrase. It's still 200 feet and then people within 500 feet. So to me, that's an indication that treasure hunter, that person never went back to change the 200-foot dimension.
Maybe he passed away or something. Or moved away. Who knows? Illinois Ghost says, I think in 1,000 years, the biggest part to finding the chest would be the information today's searchers leave behind in our time.
Illinois Ghost, that's a great thought. And Rick is going to be on our panel tomorrow night, and we're going to continue the conversation about this topic. So he can express all of those thoughts tomorrow. We got a comment from Dale. He says, with respect to your discussion about the duration of evidence available today as opposed to 1,000 years from now, do you think information available on the internet today to assist in solving clues in Fenn's poem will exist in an archive 1,000 years from now? I'm not comfortable that we can predict that, Dale. My big concern is that humanity is on a road to self-destruction, if not by its own hand, certainly by nature's hand. There's enough out there in nature that potentially, if everything remains unchanged, then yes. Let me take this call, and then. Did you have another question?
We have a super chat.
Okay. Searcher, hold for just a second while we make this announcement.
Oh, we have a super chat from Paul Emmons. A second one, another $20. Thank you. He says, have you considered figuring out the clues without borders on a map? Asking for a friend.
Oh, well, look at you translating Spanish.
I figured it out after that last one you did.
Paul, have you considered figuring out the clues without borders on a map? not in the current instance, not in the instance of our current solution. We require borders on a map in order for our solution to work. So somehow or the other, hi caller, this is a Gypsy's Kiss. What's your question? Hey caller, can you hear me? Hold on. Hey caller, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hi caller.
Hello?
Hi caller, can you? Yeah, it's Toby.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good, thank you. And you?
Great. This is Fast Eddie from Utah.
Hey, Fast Eddie from Utah. How are you doing? What have you got a question for us?
Yes, I do.
All right, hit it.
Hey, so Forrest Fenn, he talks about in interviews and stuff that he parked his car and he hauled the treasure in 2 loads in an evening's time. So that kind of makes me wonder, well, how far of a trip did he make from his car to where he left his treasure? Was it 1 mile, 2, 3, 4 miles? What do you think on that from what he has said?
Well, I can, of course, share with you our theory on the matter. First of all, let me make one correction. He didn't say it was in an evening. He said it was in an afternoon, that he made 2 trips in a single afternoon from his car to the location where he placed the treasure. We believe that the distance is, so we've said this in the past, and again, this is our opinion. We believe that the distance between Clue 1 and Clue 9 is under 1,000 feet. So if you consider that he didn't park at Clue 1, but he parked near Clue 1, we think that that he walked, let's see, 1,000 feet. He walked less than a mile in, let me see if I'm calculating this right. Yeah, he walked less than a mile total on the afternoon. He says a couple of miles, he thinks, I think in one of his quotes, but we don't think it can be that far. And the reason we don't think that it can be that far is that he had a lot to do in that afternoon. He had to make those 2 trips. He had to do some work at the location at which he hid the treasure, and he still had to get back in time for dinner. So we've run an estimate. I wrote a story a while back about the day that Forrest Fenn hid the treasure, and the numbers, the calculations that we use in that story are very much in line with our solution. We don't think he drove dozens of miles, and we don't think he walked, more than a couple miles at the most in the 4 trips.
Yeah, I got you.
How do you feel about that?
Okay. Say that again.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's pretty reasonable. I mean, there's a time frame there that he kind of talks about. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and he was 79, 80 years old
when he hit it,
carried the treasure.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's hard. It's kind of hard to say because he could be a mile off the road, because a mile really doesn't take you that long to walk.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, he says there are no human trails. We don't find any human trails in our search location. We find a lot of animal trails. But I'm going to make a suggestion to you. Take everything that you know about the day Fenn hid the treasure, and from the time he gets up in the morning, write the story as you see it. Because that's when it starts coming together as logical or not. Because if you're writing it yourself, you can question, like, does that make sense? So just take it's 3 typewritten pages at best. Write the story, write what you think is the story, and see how it fits in comparison to what you know about what Fenn did on that day.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, sir.
Well, thanks a lot. Keep the show going on.
We appreciate it. We plan to. Thanks for calling in. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks now. Bye.
Bye now. Okay, the AGK line is open for another caller. Let's see.
Jason said he had to go pick up the girls, but the technical was all good on his side, and he watched both the YouTube and the Facebook.
Oh, great. Great. Thanks, Jace. Give the girls hugs for me. Okay, how are we doing on Q&A? We good?
No real questions here, just suppositions, and
Is that the $2.99 a minute?
this keeps popping up. Let's see. Toby needs a phone receptionist. Oh, and Denise Bagley said you should have a show on Mondays. Mondays are open.
Actually, Mondays are going to... Oh, you mean Monday afternoons. Denise, we're doing, I don't know what, 5 shows?
We put out our lineup on Mondays.
Yeah, we're doing 5 shows this week, and we put out our lineup, and I got 3 hours sleep last night. 704 area code. Let's take the call. You've reached the Gypsy's Kiss hotline. Do me a favor and turn the volume on your computer off, because we're getting feedback before we talk.
That's off.
Got it. Okay. Who is this?
This is Michael Cohen.
Hey, Michael, and where are you calling from?
North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina.
So, before you ask your question, how is your weather?
It's pretty good now.
Oh, good.
It's pretty good.
We're happy to hear that. Things are, the waters are receding.
Yes. We didn't. Ours, we were up a little bit higher, so we didn't get wet. We got soaked, but we didn't get flooded.
Oh, okay. Well, good. We're happy to hear that. So, tell us what you're calling. Tell us what you're calling about.
For you.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not a question.
Oh, all right.
I'm going to tell you that next week, if my truck is running, it's mine. I know where it is now. I was going the wrong way in my trail. I kept going backwards. Now that I figured out what I was doing, I've reached the end. There's no more clues where I'm at. There's no more clues.
So the only thing that you have to do is pick up the treasure and take it home?
Yes.
Well,
I'll give you one clue.
All right, give me a
It's
clue.
just north of the 2 pineapple pies.
It's
just north of the 2 upside-down pineapple pies.
The 2 upside-down pineapple pies. Okay.
The
All
ones
right.
you can buy 2 for a nickel.
Uh-huh, yes, sir. Actually, we paid more for our pies when we went up to Colorado. I think they were about $2.50, but back in the day.
That's one of the stories in the book.
Yeah, that's right. That is. Well, we wish you the best in your search, and we look forward to talking to you after A, your truck is fixed, and B, you have recovered that treasure, because it forces us to think about what we're going to do after A Gypsy's Kiss, the hunt for Forrest Fenn's treasure. We're going to have to do something else after all of this. So.
From where Warm Waters Hall to where the blaze is 25 miles as a crow flies.
Okay, well, so, you know, our theory is a little bit different from that. We think that's a big distance, but it sounds like you have this thing pretty well in hand. When do you expect to have your truck fixed and go visit your search area?
Hopefully it'll be fixed by Monday. I lost the cylinder up on the mountain the last time I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hell of a time driving back across the United States on 7 cylinders.
Right, all the way back to North Carolina. So if you don't mind sharing, what state do you think the treasure is hidden in?
Wyoming.
Wyoming. And so you'll be heading out there next week, you think?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think you're okay.
I can only spend 1 day up on the mountain every time I go up because I only have 1 lung.
Oh.
And I get altitude sickness. I get a lot of fluid built up in my lungs.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, best wishes on your travels, safe travels, and be careful when you're out there. He's warned us before not to do anything risky, so make sure you don't do anything risky, and let us know when you get back into North Carolina the results of your adventure, whether or not you found the treasure. We look forward to talking to you again.
All the clues I found are basically in a straight line. There is a dog leg at the end, but all the clues, all the hints are in a straight line.
Well, thank you for, again, sharing that with our chat room. I'm sure that folks can take advantage of some of the recommendations and advice you're giving to them. That's really good. You're very open. Thanks for that.
Okay, have a good day.
You too, sir. Be safe.
Bye.
Got a text message got to take care of?
All right.
Let's see. How would it be possible for Fenn to hide, and this is from Dale again, how would it be possible for Fenn to hide the treasure and return home for dinner if the treasure were hid outside of New Mexico? So there's a variety of ways, and that is he could have been situated in a location. So, for example, we know that Fenn visited the Yellowstone and the Cody area several times a year. So there's nothing that prevents him. And if you remember correctly, I mentioned that I had written a blog post, a story. We actually told a story on one of our shows about the day that Fenn hid the treasure. And I've actually, after we did that show, I modified it so that he could have done exactly the same thing had he left a hotel in Cody, Wyoming, or a hotel in West Yellowstone, or a hotel in Antonito, Colorado. So all of those are possible. It doesn't have to be the day trip could have started any place where he was situated at that point in time. So it's not restricted to him leaving from his home in Santa Fe. He could have left his home in Santa Fe for the day. He could have left a hotel in Cody or West Yellowstone for the day. So it's all plausible that he could do it in a day and still the treasure not be hidden in New Mexico.
And we have a question from Denise Bagley. She wants to know what you think of this. The unintended clue in Too Far to Walk. His coach couldn't walk. Not that it was too far, 3 miles. Could be a clue on the distance, in her opinion.
I think that's perfectly plausible. I think anytime you see a dimension of distance, you can relate it to the way he thinks. And whenever he talks about distance, he does it in a way that makes it rational to the reader, right? So he doesn't say you'll have to travel. He says the Rocky Mountains, but he never uses the phrase or uses a phrase like the thousands of miles of the Rocky Mountains. So he compresses time and he compresses space whenever he talks about it, and that way makes it a small space. He talks about small spaces and locations. So that could fit in very nicely.
And Journeyman says they have portable oxygen. You should pick some up for safety. I believe that's for Michael. Who were we talking to that needed?
Michael, yeah.
Michael?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kathy Ferguson is watching. Hello, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy. Is she on Facebook?
Yes.
So for our fans on Facebook, hi, we're glad to see you today. We'll figure out how I can see that in front of me so we can address the questions, but it sounds like you're doing okay over there, right?
Yeah, I got it. I mean, there's only a couple of people watching at a time, so we don't get a whole lot over there anyway.
That's okay.
It'll pick up over time.
Right, I agree. Okay, how are we doing over there? Any more questions? Oh, that was Michael Cohn.
Yeah.
Michael Cohn.
Do you ever watch films for hints like The Chase starring Robert Redford, Richard Hunter? We watched Ready Player One, and
actually we did watch.
How that was very
Ready
Fenn
Player
treasure-like.
Yeah, Ready Player One had a lot of Fenn treasure things in it. I haven't. The closest I've come to getting outside the thrill of the chase and other Fenn volumes has been like reading Robert Redford's book or Flywater or Russell Osborne's book. But I could never. The problem for me has always been the question that Shelley asks me, and the question is, how does that get me closer to the treasure? And a lot of times after I read the books, although they're amazingly enjoyable, Robert Redford's book especially, Flywater to some extent, although it's not really as much a reading book as it is a picture book. But I come back from those efforts and Shelley asks, how does that help us get closer to the treasure? And I'm not sure I have a good answer for that. So if I can't get past the books, far be it for me to go look at films and try and figure out if there's anything in the films. I've got an incoming text. Fenn says, let me see, this is from Brian Ulrich. Fenn says, watch smarter every day. What do you think he means by that or trying to tell you?
That's that backwards bicycle video we watched and we talked about.
Watch smarter every day.
Yeah.
We actually, Brian, if you look at our YouTube videos, we actually did a video on that subject, and I got beat up for YouTube by it. They beat me up for copyright. They let me keep the video, but if you look back like 3 months, we actually took the smarter.
Longer ago than that. It was near the beginning of the year.
Was it really?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, Brian,
Anyway.
Go back.
Backwards bicycle.
The backwards bicycle. I can't remember the name of the video, but we actually did an entire video on that concept and what Fenn was trying to tell us when he referred to Smarter Every Day, because Smarter Every Day has, I don't know, hundreds of videos. But I'm assuming you were referring to the one on the backwards bicycle, which is what Fenn referred to. We actually made a video on that. So if you look at our list of videos, you'll find it there.
And Susan McFadden says, in her opinion, Augusta, Georgia is a good place to look. You can look there, but it's not in the Rocky Mountains, so I don't think Fenn's treasure will be there.
Yeah, there might be another treasure to find in Augusta, Georgia, which is a beautiful old Southern-style town. But it is not in the mountains north of Santa Fe, nor is it in the Rocky Mountains, nor is it 8.25 miles north of Santa Fe, so the treasure probably isn't there. On the other hand, it's a beautiful town, and it would be fun to walk through and take photographs, especially after sunset. Not after sunset, around sunset. Because then you can take pictures.
Has Forrest ever said the clues in the poem are in exact order?
He has said the things that he said about, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've done more of this research than I have. He said that there are 9 clues in the poem. He has said that the first clue is begin at where warm waters halt, and he said they are continuous or contiguous. What did he say in the
Consecutive.
Consecutive. They are in consecutive order. If you look at a video, we have a video on our YouTube channel called the Lorraine Mills interview with Forrest Fenn. And in that particular interview, he says several things about the clues that you should be aware of. But one of the things that he says in that interview is that they are in consecutive order.
Yes.
That there are 9 clues. The first one is... I don't think he said it was... He said there were 9 clues. And he said they were in consecutive order. He didn't say that the first clues begin at warm waters halt until the New Zealand radio interview in 2014.
That's the only time we've ever seen or heard him say it.
Yeah, exactly.
Continuous?
Continuous, I think. No, is that right?
I thought he said consecutive. Wasn't it in the Moby Dickens video that he said it?
I don't know.
Was it the Lorraine Mills?
So there is a video on our channel called Just the Facts. Just the FACTS facts, and
FAQS.
Those are mine. The facts FAQS were mine.
Right.
Yours were just the facts. So it's just Shelley in front of a camera, and one of them refers to the 3 most important things that you need to know about the 9 clues. And if you look that video up, it has exactly the quotes that come, and I don't remember now if there's continuous or contiguous. I don't think it's contiguous, and I don't think it was Moby Dickens. I think it was Lorraine Mills. But all of that information is in that one video that Shelley produced.
Yes. Okay.
Is that it?
We're good. I think we're done.
Okay, so I'm going to turn the phone lines off, and because we're done there, we don't have anything from either chat room.
Nope.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay, so I'm going to do this one, and then you can do the rest. We're going to talk about the rest of our week. So this is Karishma. It's an Indian, the Indian translator. The English translation of Karishma is miracle, and Lord knows I need a miracle. But if you watched Sean Dodson's Flipside show on Sunday night, he put out what in other communities are referred to as YouTube challenges. He called it the Thrill of the Chase Roundtable, and his challenge was to make a video about what and where warm waters halt, or the difference between, is it more important to talk about what warm waters halt are versus where warm waters halt. And put that challenge out to the Fenn YouTube community, or Fenn tubers as he calls them. And he gave us a deadline of Wednesday night at 7 p.m. and he gave us a limitation of 5 minutes. He made a strong recommendation. So I met the first criteria. We're going to post our video, our response to Sean's challenge tomorrow at 1 p.m. We want to keep it in kind of our schedule. So we will be posting a video entitled What versus Where Warm Waters Halt, the Thrill of the Chase Roundtable, as he requested. But if you know me, keeping under 5 minutes for anything is nearly impossible. So I didn't meet the 5-minute requirement. I will meet the deadline requirement, but I think you'll find it enjoyable and you'll get to know more about
I do have a question. Quick question you could answer.
Our little miracle Karishma.
Tom K. wants to know, what body of water did New Mexico record brown trout come from?
It came from the Chama River just below El Vado Dam, and you can see the mounted brown trout in the little store at Cooper's Ranch alongside the Chama River and just above where the rafters put in to go down the Chama. So they put in below the home of brown, huh? Get it? And that was actually my first search. If you go back to, is Jason still in the room? Because he hates being... Okay. So if you go to gypsyskiss.com, our blog, post on the click on the photo albums in the navigation bar and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the photo albums. I think it literally is my first, maybe not my first one, my first photo album, and it was the Rio Chama Recon, and it was based on the dam. This is before Fenn said warm waters halt or weren't associated with a dam, but my warm waters halt were where the Chama comes out of El Vado Dam. El Vado being the Spanish word for ford, get it? And then the home of brown was that mounted record brown trout in the Cooper's Ranch store right there. So yeah, we got stranded. I'm glad Jason isn't here.
That was just supposed to be a very short answer.
Okay, sorry. Yes.
I mean, he's already said thank you. Moved on.
That's where that brown trout is. Okay, where am I?
You had a text, but I think...
that wasn't over here.
Oh.
I don't know. Wait a minute. Oh, no, it was. Okay. So text. Let's see.
What's a voicemail?
Oh, it is a voicemail. Okay. So the problem is, Scott, I could play this voicemail. The problem is that you've put your phone numbers in it, and I don't want to share that with the room. So I'll listen to it later and address your comment and question in that, because it does have your phone number in there, and I don't want to share that with the room. Okay?
Don't want to dox you.
Right. So again, you can call, leave a voicemail, and we'll play it on our Friday show, and then I'll address the questions then. But what I ask you to do, if you listen to the greeting, leave your name and what state you're in. But we don't want to reveal your phone number, so please don't reveal your phone number either, because that way we won't be able to play it. Okay, for the chat room. Okay, so tomorrow at 1 o'clock, our response to the flip side's challenge regarding what and where warm waters halt for the Thrill of the Chase Roundtable. And as I said, you'll get to meet the Karishma, the little girl in India.
All right. And then follow up with that, 7 p.m. Wednesday, September 19th?
That's correct.
Oh, well, let's talk like a pirate day. So apparently everybody on the panel will be talking like a pirate, right? Jonathan Jones, Rick McDonald, Sean Martinez, and Jason Eunice will all be talking like pirates. And they're going to also talk about...
This? How do you know September 19th is Talk Like a Pirate Day?
Everybody knows that.
I don't know that.
It's like a national holiday.
You put me through this last year, actually.
Yeah.
Was it last year or 2 years ago?
You should know by now then. Okay.
Why is it Talk Like a Pirate Day? I mean, what makes September 9th Talk Like a Pirate Day?
Well, I don't have the whole history. I just know that day is that thing.
Oh, okay.
I don't have the history of every national holiday.
Apparently not.
So be there Wednesday night to find out more about Talk Like a Pirate Day and how to find treasure. Arg.
Panelists, if any of you are watching, you will not be required to talk like a pirate. Okay?
I bet Jason will do it.
Be Jason will do it. Jason will do it.
And that will be streamed to Facebook and YouTube. There will be a chat room in both Facebook and YouTube that you can make comments, and you can also text Toby at the 1-800 text number.
Now, we will be texting, but no call-ins on the panel show, and the reason, as I mentioned in our lineup, is I like the fast pace of the panel. We'd like to maintain that, and call-ins slow us up a little bit, and so we won't be taking calls on the panel. We will be taking the 1-800 text.
Then on Thursday, September 20th at 1 p.m., Thrill of the Chase Book Club, the most exciting and the be-all, end-all chapter in the book, chapter 23, Gold and More. That's the chapter that includes the poem and all those little extra hints, like Somewhere in the Mountains North of Santa Fe. So we're going to be talking about that on Thursday, so I hope that you join us. And again, we'll be both streamed to both Facebook and YouTube Live. We'll have comments and chat room open. The 800 text is open, and after the presentation, the 800 call-in will also be open. Then on Friday, it's All About You, number 12. This is Friday, September 21st at 1 o'clock p.m. And guess what? This time, for the first time ever, the All About You video will be live. So you can tune in, you can be in the chat room, you can ask questions of the guest, and you can make comments on either Facebook or YouTube, and you can text the 1-800 number with your questions as well.
So we're going to do this just once because I want to try this out and see how it sounds, how it looks, and because we want to stream to both Facebook and live stream simultaneously. So we'll try it out. I don't know if I could do it in the future, and the reason is that it is more difficult to schedule the It's All About You interviews. It's really dependent upon the individual. So we were very fortunate that this particular interview, the interviewee agreed to do it live and would be available on 1 p.m. on Friday. So it may not always be that way. So when we can do them live, we can schedule around the subject, the individual. We'll try to do them live. Otherwise, we'll pre-record them and then upload them on Friday like we have in the past.
They're all practicing talking like a pirate in the chat room. And then Friday evening, September 21st, Forrest Fenn, Friday Fandango. Toby's going to be live and coming at you from the studio. We haven't given it a name yet. The Huning Studio, we call it. And it will be he'll be taking calls. Is there a specific topic or just anything?
No, anything goes on that. I will take comments in each of the rooms. You, of course, will be helping me with producer's responsibilities.
Moderating.
And she'll be moderating in both the Facebook room and the YouTube room, and I'm sure we'll have other of our moderators there. And but it's open line night. It's what do you call it? Rush Limbaugh night. You can call and talk about anything related to the search. We can talk about that, and you can text as well. And of course, you can make comments in each of the room. I had a really good time doing this last Friday night, and I want to do it again. And have made my poker game permanently postponed to later in the evening. So
yeah, so you could give him super chat to compensate.
There
so
you
that he
go.
can go and spend that in the
I do have a question
casino.
from Dale again.
Okay.
Toby, during an interview with a reporter regarding the legal questions that are based on where the treasure is recovered, Fenn replied to one of the reporter's questions with, "What if there's no question?" That was the SBS Sunday morning interview. What if there is no question? What are AGK's thoughts about Forrest's answer? The answer to us meant that he put it in a location where legal questions wouldn't arise when and if the finder were to recover the treasure. That's why, of course, we don't think it's in a national park, but that's our opinion. So I think that's all he was saying, that he spoke to his attorneys beforehand to determine what the best solution to the problem was, and then made a decision about where he hid the treasure based on that. So we think that's what he's referring to. From, I don't know who this is, 505. 505. Is this Paul? Drone fishing. Great videos. Drone fishing videos are just the best.
Where are we at?
We are at the end.
Yeah, okay. So I was like tapping things and nothing was working.
Okay, yeah, no, we're done. I'm going to send you back to full screen and stage the outro.
All right. So thank you all for being here today to give us your questions and comments and your kind attention. We appreciate your presence, and get out there and find that treasure. For A Gypsy's Kiss the Vlog, I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Thanks for watching. We will see you tomorrow evening at our panel with our friends and panelists. And we're going to be talking about a very similar subject in the 1,000-year problem, okay?
And pirates.
And
Arr.
Arr.